For consultations, tutoring, and courses, please visit laurabaratastrologer.com. And if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Hello everyone. Today we're talking about self-confidence and self-esteem. And these are very different, well, not very different, but somewhat different things. And you can see these in the horoscope by the sun and the moon, the signs of Aries and Taurus, the first house and the second house, and you can see this in the birth chart for self-confidence and in the second divisional chart, which is called the Hora, for self-esteem. Now, self-confidence, or the word confidence, comes from the Latin confidentia, which means firmly trusting and bold, okay? And this is a dynamic aspect of the person, or a dynamic aspect of the personality. That's why it is represented by the sun, because the sun is the dynamic planet and the masculine force that pushes out through creation, okay? And this is not saying that women can't be confident. I'm not saying anything like that. This is just the masculine part of the psyche. The self-esteem part, or the self-worth part, is the feminine side, which is just as important. And I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so the first house in Aries, okay, Aries rules the head, the forehead and the brain and the head. And that's where we get, we can cognate our inspiration and act on that. Aries is the tropical sign of Aries is the first day of spring. It's the when everything is blooming and coming up with life and wanting to move towards the sun. And so that has to do with just the raw power and confidence that you feel from that inspiration, from that dynamic force that the sun carries, okay? So any afflictions to the sun will harm the confidence in the person. Any afflictions to the first house will harm the confidence. And any afflictions to Aries will harm the confidence, okay? So that's something you want to look for. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, if the sun is well disposed, if Aries is well disposed, and if the first house is well disposed, then the person is a strong, confident person. They can be bold in their own energy, okay? And that is also seen in the Rashi chart. That's the first divisional chart. So when you, let's say you are going out for a job interview, you can be extremely bold. You can interview very, very well. You can really wow the interviewers with your confidence. Or you can be really timid and your body language is timid and you have your head down, you know, that kind of thing. That's where you see Aries, the first house in the sun. That's where you see that in a person, okay? Now, self-esteem is a little different. Esteem comes from the French word estimer, which means value, account, and worth. So what that means is the esteem, self-esteem is what you think you are worth, what you think you deserve, okay? It's not the boldness you have, but it's a receptive feeling. It's what you think you should get from other people around you. And this actually is developed, you are born with it from past karmas, and you develop that in the early childhood stages when your logical mind is not working. You know, you're on, your brain is much more receptive, and you need to be loved and cherished for who you are. And that period of life is ruled by the moon, okay? And the moon is totally receptive. It's a totally receptive planet. We couldn't even see the moon. The moon takes the light of the sun. It's receptive to the light of the sun and waxes and wanes. And so self-esteem is what you think you should get and what you deserve. And that is seen by the moon, by the sign of Taurus, and by the second house. Now, Taurus in the second house rule the face. And the face is where our senses are, and the face is where we eat. And that's where we satisfy our needs, through eating and what we see, what we smell, what we hear. That's how we satisfy our needs. So if our needs aren't being met when we're very young, we think we are conditioned in life to think that that's what we deserve, having our needs not met. So we will put up with treatment from other people in that regard. We'll put up with abuse and negativity and manipulation, or we won't, depending on what we think we deserve. Okay? Now, and that's a feminine quality. Okay? So any afflictions to the moon will show, maybe the person has problems in meeting their needs, and they don't know how to go about asking to have their needs met, and they don't think they deserve to have their needs met. If the moon is very afflicted, if the sign of Taurus is very afflicted, or if the second house is very afflicted, that's how we feel. Now, I'll give you an example of some different how this works, okay? Say you're going for a job interview and you're extremely confident. You've got a lot of self-confidence, and like I mentioned before, you really wow the interviewers. But when it comes time to ask for the salary you want, or when it comes time to ask for a raise, because let's say your moon and Taurus and the second house are extremely afflicted, they don't give you the raise, or they don't give you the salary you want. But you still say, okay, whatever, that's fine. I can work with that. There's a difference there. Do you see the difference? Now, let's say your sun is afflicted, Aries is afflicted, the first house is afflicted, either of these three or all three, which will really harm it. Then you don't have that confidence. You go into a job interview, you're slouched over, you look at the ground, you don't look the interviewers in the eye, you have no confidence, but you know inside of you that you're capable and that you can do the job, and you expect to get the salary you ask for if they hire you. And when you ask for a raise, you expect to get that raise. If you don't get the raise or the salary you ask for, then you just go somewhere else. And in a relationship, like let's say in a relationship scenario, you're not bold with relationships. You like someone, but you don't have the confidence to go up to them and talk to them, or that kind of thing, and you don't look them in the eye, the same type of thing. But if you actually do get into a relationship with you, and they're abusive and manipulative and whatever it is, or they're violent with you, and the moment they do that, they crossed a boundary, because you know you're worth a lot more than that, so you tell them to get lost. That's one example of having a lot of self-worth, but not having a lot of self-esteem. The opposite is true too. Let's say someone has a lot of self-esteem and they're bold and they like somebody, they rush into it, and they talk to them and, shower them with compliments and affection. But then when the relationship gets going and the person becomes abusive to them, they don't have the boundaries. They don't think they are worth more than what they're getting. They believe they deserve the abuse and the manipulation, or, whatever it is. So that's kind of the differences between self-confidence and self-esteem. You need both, to work in a healthy way. Or if you don't have both, then you can work on that. You can work on one or the other, whichever you're lacking in. Now, okay, so the self-confidence is seen through Aries first house in the Rashi chart. The self-esteem, to value yourself, you have to have healthy moon, healthy Taurus, healthy second house. If one of them isn't so great and the other two make up for it, that's fine too. But if you don't have that self-worth, you can work on it. Now, you can also see the self-worth in the second divisional chart, which is the Hora. It's called the Hora chart. Hora just means hour. And the way you calculate that, now there's two ways to calculate it. The most common way that's out there that everybody knows is if a planet is in the first 15 degrees of an odd sign, then it goes to Leo in this chart. If it's in the second 15 degrees of an odd sign or a masculine sign, then it goes to Cancer. The opposite is true for feminine signs or even signs. First 15 degrees of a feminine sign, the planet goes to Cancer, and then it goes to Leo in the second 15 degrees of a even or feminine sign. Now, I don't read the Hora that way at all. I actually have never read it that way. The way you calculate the Hora for the second divisional chart is if it's kind of similar. If a planet is in the first 15 degrees of an odd or masculine sign, it stays in that sign. If it's in the second 15 degrees of an odd or masculine sign, it goes to the opposite sign or the opposite Rashi. So say a planet is at 22 degrees Aries, then in the birth chart, then in the Hora, it would go to Libra, okay? And then it reverses for the even or feminine signs, okay? That's how I read the Hora chart, and that's how it's calculated in the software that I use, which is Kala software, okay? Now, the Hora chart, a lot of people will say, and it represents wealth, but what it really represents is the ability to meet your needs and the needs of your family, the people that you're responsible for. It's the ability to meet your responsibilities. That's what the Hora means. And the most important planet in the Hora chart is the moon, because it's the second planet. This is the second divisional chart, or Varga. So that is, you want to look at the planets in the Hora chart to see if the person values themselves, and if they can take care of themselves and meet their needs. And it means wealth in the sense that you acquire wealth to take care of your responsibilities. Now, if you go above and beyond that, meaning if you become really wealthy, like a millionaire or a billionaire, that is seen in the Varga of Fortune, or the Chapter Tamsha. And that is the fourth divisional chart, okay? And that's calculated a little differently. That's a different divisional chart. That shows fortune. That shows wealth that goes above and beyond just meeting your needs and your responsibilities. So, and also, you want to look at the moon in the Hora chart, the sign of Taurus, and the second house cusp, and also the second house from the ascendant. See how healthy they are or unhealthy it is, and that's going to show you a lot about the person, if they esteem themselves and can take care of their responsibilities. Okay, so yeah, that's it for today, and thanks for watching. Bye.